So, we got another Gamergate apparently. Um, this is funny. If you haven't been paying attention, there's this thing going around towards this company called Sweet Baby Inc. Um, and the main ideology, ideology behind everything that's going on is that Sweet Baby Inc. is apparently, working for the devil. Uh, well, Sweet Baby Inc. is a consultant company that consults on video games, and it would not be incorrect to say that they're a actual good version of Feminist Frequency, which, if you don't know, the No was a company that essentially was started up because of Gamergate and dealing with that whole shebang bang in the original thing. But Sweet Baby Inc. was the cause of a bunch of controversy. Now, you might not be aware about how it started because a lot of people have really not made that conclusion or like gotten around to breaking that part down. But for the most part, Sweet Baby Inc. is basically a product of the Streisand effect. They're the reason that they're in the limelight right now. Um, and there's been so many different YouTubers that have covered this in deep dive. Upper Echelon is a perfect person to look at, as well as It's a Gundam, um, who basically just keeps stringing down this rabbit hole that he'll never get out of. But the fact of what's going on with Sweet Baby Inc. Is far more important than what happened. Uh, because what Sweet Baby Inc. kind of proved was essentially the same issues that were brought up during Gamergate, where much like with the original Gamergate, you have way too many media outlets, especially gaming media outlets, that are trying to disassociate the fact that the company themselves, even though they're doing what they're doing or they did what they did in terms of trying to dox people or get an account removed or even their positions as consultants and the lies that came up from their actual involvement as consultants or just as consultants, as they said, the media is overlooking all of that information in order to sit there and convey that the people who are targeting this company are, they're angry gamers, they might be Trump supporters, different things in order to facilitate some type of notion that most of the people who are upset about what's going on are in the wrong because their viewpoints are obviously negative. Now again, I I might summarize a lot of what's happening with Sweet Baby Inc., but I'm not really going to get into the nitty gritty of what it is going on. Way too many people have done that. I just kind of want to put in my 2 cents. But the thing is that from Sweet Baby Inc. being a consultant company, if you look into exactly what it is that they've done as a consultant company, this whole Streisand effect thing that they started happened because a Steam page was made to showcase to people what games this company has worked on. Now, before I go even any further, they are not the only company doing this. There are a multitude of companies going around doing what Sweet Baby Inc. is doing. And if you look for them, you're definitely going to find them. And it's just affecting the gaming industry as just the biggest crutch that has ever happened. And as far as I'm concerned, this is worse than Gamergate because of the fact that you're seeing exactly how far gaming studios have fallen, all to chase the almighty dollar, but at the same time, not paying attention to everyone screaming at them that this is going to kill your company. This is going to not make you money. You going down this path seems like it will give you a cheap buck, like a quick buck, actually, but it won't. It actually is going to bite you in the ass, and it's going to be just, you're going to be so worse off for it. Please stop what you're doing and then reverse. And the sad thing is that these gaming companies are basically doing the equivalent of Hollywood when it came to movies, where it's like they're doubling down on this notion that has clearly been shown to be not profitable. So that I just wanted to clarify that with the Sweet Baby Inc. thing. But The Streisand effect thing happened because a Steam page was made that showcased the games that they were involved in, right? Now, it showcased the games that they were involved in, and they then tried to dox and remove the Steam page that was made up to do to basically just showcase the games that they were consultants on, with air quotes. Now, the funny thing is that the Steam page only got his information from their website, which they showed what video games they worked on, which is hilarious. So then, upon people finding out that they were trying to outwardly remove this page, which they basically were screaming and clamoring about all through Twitter and whatnot, because of course they use Twitter, it then caused to attention so many other people at the disparity of this company. So you had a few people basically bring up the fact that this company's name kept popping up on a bunch of AAA games that essentially had terrible narratives. And then upon a deep dive of the company itself, as well as the CEO, CFO, COO, I mean, you people have then uncovered so much stuff that basically was, again, similar to what happened with the original Gamergate, where you have people trying to influence and being a part of video games and depicting and showcasing narratives to fit their own agenda without caring about what it is that the consumers actually want to see or play. So then it became the idea of essentially, like, I mean, this had to be like one of the easiest jobs ever, but I'm pretty sure they probably thought it was like super hard because, you know, thinking is difficult for these types of people. But you just go in, you hear a storyline where they say, this is the main character, this is what he does, this is how he play, this is how the story of the game goes. And they'll go in and go, what if they were a black woman? And that was it. And then they would change the game based off of that. But then they would go, well, since it's a black woman, they need to talk about the patriarchy. They need to talk about racism. They need to talk about blah, 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 blah. And then the games come out as crap. And that's how you got Forspoken. But the thing is that despite that beautiful example, the game of Forspoken, which I believe Sweet Baby Inc. worked on, the studio that worked on that game shut down. And so did Volition, the studio that worked on the new, the new Saints Row game. That got shut down. A multitude of these games that essentially Sweet Baby Inc. has been a part of have been delegated to companies that are now no longer making games, or projects that essentially were just not profitable at all, that have just been completely, abandoned as games. And so with this, basically eureka moment behind gamers looking at this content, they're just screaming towards the companies, hey, quit while you're ahead. Stop with this whole diversity nonsense. Even the argument itself, which is basically very tame so far, which has just been, you can include diversity, because the reason that they're doing this stuff is for the d.e.i, which equals d.i.e, and the what is the other thing, the ESG stuff. You can look up that nonsense if you want to, but it's government subsidy. Like, basically it's if you do this stuff with diversity and inclusion, you'll get money from the government. But realistically, all they want is for you to check a box. But you don't have to make it bad. You can still check the box and it be good, but they're checking the boxes and it's bad. And that's not good. So with all of that nonsense being essentially established and showcased, you have a multitude of different people who are basically telling these corporations it is fine to have diversity. No one cares if you have a black character here or a Hispanic character there or an Asian character there. That's not the problem. The problem is that the narrative being spoken and the concepts being shoved down your throat in these games are turning out to be terrible, where even much to the actual discretion of these game developers and the people working at these consultant firms, they're outwardly telling you their essential racist depiction of how to showcase white men. White men are just straight up terrible, so they should be viewed as such. Women are holier than thou, so there should never be a down moment with them. I mean, the director, the main developer behind the Spider-Man game, was constantly told and noticed that people hated playing the Mary Jane segments. So he doubled down on it on purpose because he wanted to show her as a powerful woman. It has nothing to do with the fact that the consumer, the actual people who played the game, couldn't stand those moments. It took away from Spider-Man. It made you not be Spider-Man. When you're playing a Spider-Man game, I want to play as Spider-Man. So not only did he double down on those moments, but then he doubled down on the fact of you essentially doing so much more with a walking sim. And you're riding your bike with Harry. The game was incredibly buggy in certain moments and whatnot, and you had a little to no moments where you're actually playing as Peter Parker, but more so uh kind of shifting in and out between doing stuff with Peter, doing stuff with Miles, and then the story itself ended with a kind of eh for Peter Parker. Why? Because white man bad. And people took notice of that. People brought that up to it as attention, and they complained about it. But the way how basically the people who are on the Sweet Baby Inc. side, the ones who are defending them, they see it as the complaint is not valid because their ideology is superior and than everything else. Their agenda and pushing their agenda far outweighs any type of criticism that you could possibly get. Damn it being the fact that you're going, this isn't fun. It's not fun to do this. It's not fun to play this way. It's not fun to have the game being like that. Damn all that. The only thing they want to hear is that, yes, I agree. It's that, yeah, you have opened my eyes. I have seen the light. Spider-Man is white. So only Miles can be him. And the director already to double down again, and he stated that basically the next game you're only going to play as Miles. And like if you've seen anything with the game, it's horrible being Miles. Everything that makes Peter Parker special, that makes Spider-Man special, they removed, and then Miles just basically gets everything thrown at him. It is just the worst. Like they just don't know what to do with this character, and it is just terrible. And I said this when I reviewed the Miles Morales game, and I talked about how bad I thought it was. Um, it was like gameplay. I enjoyed it when I got to play them, but the stuff that they did narratively was disgusting. I hated it. Hell, it got to the point where it's like this is how so far off are they're trying to make Miles in hopes that it would make people like him. Is that while in the original Spider-Man game you had Jameson doing a podcast that would speak against Spider-Man, in Miles's game there was a girl who started a podcast when you begin the game, and then within the span of a couple of weeks her podcast is now bigger than Jameson, and all she does is praise Miles as Spider-Man. Oh man. And it got to the point where she even had a debate against Jameson and beat him. Oh man, just terrible. That's just a small sliver of the crap that goes on within this game. But you see my point. I didn't have fun playing that. I didn't resonate with Miles. I didn't care about what he had going on. I didn't like what was happening. Yet I enjoyed the first game immensely. But to know that the director essentially is pulling a Neil Druckmann, I don't want to play the next installment of the games. I don't want to play the second Spider-Man game. I haven't even played it yet, and I don't want to, knowing what I know about the game. It's I'm a diehard Spider-Man fan. So that sucks. So it's it's ridiculous that essentially you have the Sweet Baby Inc. fiasco getting to this point where now the media is constantly telling you, despite what Sweet Baby did and what they're involved in, because I believe they said for the Suicide Squad game, their own like all they did was basically help with like some of the ads in the game. But upon watching the upper echelon video that talked about this, the or the IMBD page speaking on the game, the lead writer and co-writer, as well as one of the other writers of the game, were all people that worked for Sweet Baby Inc. How is the lead writer an employee of a company that just sat there and told people in an interview with the gaming media that no, all they did was do consulting on the ads in the game. They had nothing to do with the narrative. The game was basically almost finished by the time that they got involved. That doesn't make, like, they blatantly lied in your face, and then the media had no type of backbone to actually look up any of the stuff that they were talking about or discussing, but they just took everything that they said for fact. And gaming media has been going down for years. There's always been this dissatisfied thing to even try to look at, to where even when people do praise them for finally having some type of backbone with anything, it's a one-off chance. And it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, you say that now, but you're not forgiven. And half of the time it's like, well, you said that about this, but why is it that your argument wasn't that way upon looking at this game? Maybe it's because this game is praised as universally bad. Who knows? But all of this stuff is just a weird, very weird byproduct of what it is that these consultant firms are doing towards video games, and how this notion of like the ESG and the d.e.i stuff is. It's not helping, and the companies involved in this stuff are only going to go down. Like they're going to get worse. They're not going to do better, because again, this is basically a mirror of what it is that happened to Hollywood when it came to them just basically focusing on woke shit. And because of that, a lot of these gaming companies now based in California, they hired a bunch of people that ain't got no type of talent, but essentially are incredibly vain and idealistic and really, really racist. And then you filled up your offices with all of these people to focus on this stuff. And then by the time you think that, hey, we need to stop what we're doing and backtrack a little bit, it'll be too late. You've already outnumbered yourself by your own volition, and you're going to see your studio crash and burn because of these stupid ideas. The gamers that they are trying their best to sell to, but at the same notion don't want anything to do with, are the ones who look at the PlayStation Showcase. They watch the interviews with the developers. They look at the studio heads talking about what it is that they're going to do with their next upcoming games. They're the ones who involve themselves with that stuff. And they can see the writing on the walls, whether it be the Indiana Jones game that came out and they said, we want to attract a modern audience. Everything that has ever said that has been associated with woke nonsense that has been bad, or they want to go with a different route with the character, or they feel that this is what this character would do with a modern audience, or maybe they wanted to attract new people towards this older game. Code words for we suck, we have no talent, look at us set this thing on fire that you loved. All that does is drive away the audience that would buy this stuff in the first place. Because their idea of a modern audience is an audience that they haven't got yet. But there lies the issue. You haven't made what you're making appealing to anyone, except for a few people who don't enjoy what it is that you're making appealing in the first place. You're trying to appeal to a consumer that does not exist. And that has got to be the most backwards thinking that I have ever heard in my entire life. So the fact that Sweet Baby Inc., I believe like they even have more jobs coming up despite everything that's happening with this company coming up in the future. Hell, I would hire them just to be sure that I don't do what they say, to ensure that the narrative of my game is just fantastic. But it just goes to show you that, everyone sees the writing on the wall except for the powers that be. And again, all this is going to do is just turn bad for these people. And they have no idea that this is happening. And it's just the craziest train wreck to see. Because you'll see, you're looking at a pileup of different trains, and then you're looking at a conductor starting up his engines, and you're screaming at him, dude, there's the train wreck is still right there, and he just full steam ahead, just keeps on going. So that's so essentially, I guess to end this would be the better way to end this would basically be to say something from what it is that Upper Echelon brought up. That's a very good point. The argument against these people should be done with the mindset of not just attacking them based off of feelings. The facts are things that they're running away from. None of the articles that have been brought up, none of the people who have been ranting and raving about this stuff actually have done any type of valid research to back up any of the arguments that they have to say about why what Sweet Baby Inc. is doing is actually good or positive for gamers or people in general. It's incredibly disingenuous and racist, but that's not what they're talking about. I mean, they even neglect to bring up why Sweet Baby Inc. is even being brought up into the mainstream media in itself, because it's all entirely their fault by trying to get rid of something that just talked about them, and in the most like babyish way. Like Jesus Christ. But I mean, like they've even had like their accounts and stuff like what like suspended and whatnot because what they were doing was essentially things that you're not supposed to do. But no one's reporting on that. None of the media outlets are reporting on that, but everyone knows that's what happened. And again, the people who know about what's happening are the consumers that buy this stuff. So when they see their name associated with anything, you're going to have a bad time. You're going to have people look away from your work because Sweet Baby Inc. is associated with it. And I don't think you want that, because you should want money. And all you got to do is just make a game that people want to play, and you'll get the money. You, you want proof of that? Look at all the games that aren't even AAA titles that have been doing stupid numbers just because they're games people want to play. Helldivers 2, Baldur's Gate 3. My goodness. It's like right now the indie market is the actual AAA market. And there's no reason to even say AAA anymore because those people ain't making numbers. They're not selling games as well as they used to. So, you know, who knows with that factor? You know, I guess that leave that up to the masses to decide. But yeah, the appropriate way to approach this argument, you know, whether or not you want to leave a comment on different videos and stuff like that, or have a Discord with people or anything like that. Well, speaking of Discord, a Kotaku writer tried to go to a Discord server that was discussing the Sweet Baby Inc. stuff, and she was just trying to get people to give away their information so she could dox them. It's like proof that you're on the bad guy side, right? It's like, do you need further proof that you're a bad guy? Like, because no one else is doing that but you. Oh my goodness. You had a lady that's developing a Black Panther game. She stated that essentially she doesn't want to work with white people because she feels that they use microaggressions and that can make for a hostile work environment. I wouldn't want to work for you. You're legitimately racist. But it's like, to them, that couldn't be further from the truth. And I believe someone commented when someone established that they said that you are racist. It's almost like you can't be racist against white people. And it's like, how boneheaded can you get? Again, further proof. You're the bad guy in this scenario. You are not the good guy. You are the bad guy. But do your research. Look up the different videos talking about this. I mean, hey, follow the Steam page that's showing the Sweet Baby Inc. stuff. I mean, look at the other games being consulted by different people who essentially are trying to go for the diverse route rather than actually being fun. You know, look at do due diligence with this stuff, because the only way these people are going to change is when they stop making money. And yeah, you might get a bunch of crappy games from your favorite series like for a good little while, but be realistic. Were there any good games coming out from those series to begin with? No. So it's better to hold out, wait for these dumb companies to lose enough money to where they sell it off to somebody that actually can do some good with this work, or you know, just just buy the alternatives, buy their competition, buy the things that essentially are making them lose their mind on exactly how much better it is by comparison to these things that are supposed to be associated as AAA. while these indies are just blowing them out of the water. And all they're doing is just being fun to play. Ugh, it's so ridiculous. I didn't even get to cover everything that went on, but I was just, rambling on. So if you stayed throughout the rest of the video, thank you. But yeah, that'll be the end of it. So this whole thing is crazy. And for the most part right now, I personally would call it Gamergate too, because again, you're seeing the media back this ridiculous idea going on within gaming. But now I would say it's worse than before, because who it is that they're trying to protect isn't a bunch of people basically trying to point fingers and call gamers just terrible hate mongers or whatnot. You have them backing and supporting a bunch of people who have been inadvertently affecting video games in a negative way for years now. And that, I believe, is 1,000 times worse. So, yeah, do with this knowledge what you will. But I'm going to end this video there. This has been another episode of Fun with Flame. I've been your host, Dane Flame. Boy, it's been a long time since I did that. I hope you had I hope you had fun. Yeah. Isn't that what I used to say? I can't remember.